Well, good evening. I hope that your Saturday has been a good one, and we are right here for TV47 Weekend Edition and by extension, her say. And as always, we'll have that incredible conversation. I'll tell you shortly who we'll be having on set. Indeed, a guest like no other. And when we're talking about her, we certainly are talking about the country and where we are at. And as we get to that conversation, that will be later on, it is important that we also take a look at what is in the world of news as well. I'm here to make sure that you are updated. It's good having you. My name is Linda Alela. Our sign language interpreter on the other end is none other than Rhoda Nyamai. So let me tell you who we have today. Mrs. Lynn Mengich, our guest on her say, 6 years as the Salaries and Remuneration Commission chairperson. What are just the lessons that she has picked? What are the success stories that she has, the recommendations, and what way forward? Of course, we're looking at her, who has a background in human resource, and of course, she is business leader enjoying over 25 years cross-industry experience on strategic leadership in Kenya and across the continent. Her experience both at public as well as the private sectors, and therefore tonight she is that lady who will definitely get you, as a woman, knowing that indeed the sky is not just the limit. We ask just how instrumental was her chairmanship in shaping the country's main finance as well as the HR office. Certainly a lady you want to listen to. She'll be telling us tonight, confirming whether indeed she has exited the stage or she is about to, or just all those questions that you've been having about. I know I posted, the poster, and most of the people were asking, she has exited already. Definitely we'll be getting to that. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for creating time to be with us. We're looking forward to hear from you.
Thank you, Linda.
Karibu sana. Shortly we get to that, but first the highlights. Tonight, tension at an all-time high in Tana River as 4 more people killed in fresh clashes.
Na ndugu yangu amekufa. Na sababu ya kufa ni risasi imelia. Na si risasi ya serikali, ni risasi ya watu haramu.
Governor Dado Godana arrested with the police, saying no stone will be left unturned.
We have arrested the governor of Tana River because the DCI and his team want to carry out some investigations related to what is happening in Tana River.
All eyes on the Senate ahead of DP Gachagua's impeachment trial next week.
Waongozwe na roho ya Mungu.
The DP fights in court as legal issues haunt the process. And patients at the Isiolo County Referral Hospital ICU sent home as the medics strike.
Kinonda horo, sipumui, nikiweka oxygen. Madaktari wakagoma, nikaletwa nyumbani.
Right, TV47 Weekend Edition begins right now with this sad story where 4 more people have been killed in Meti village in Tana River North sub-county earlier today in a fresh tribal clash, bringing the total number of people killed during the inter-clan clashes to 18, as Samira Mohammed details.
Hours after the Ministry of Interior declared 2 sub-counties of Bangale and Tana North as a security-disturbed and dangerous areas, 4 more people are reported to have been killed in Meti village in Tana North sub-county in a renewed inter-clan clashes said to be over land disputes. Confirming the killings that have pushed the death toll to 18. Tana River County Commissioner David Koskei said a group of youths from one community armed with machete attacked a man from another community, leading to a retaliation during which 4 of the youths were shot dead.
Mimi niko na uchungu na ndugu yangu amekufa. Na sababu ya kufa ni risasi imelia. Na si risasi ya serikali, ni risasi ya watu haramu, ya haramu.
This morning, officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigation investigations arrested Tana River County Governor Godana Dadu alongside Galole Member of Parliament Hirabai Said in connection to inter-clan clashes in Tana River. The pair are said to have been arrested for failing to honor summons in regard to the ongoing inter-clan clashes in Tana River County. As an impulsive and an act of bullying by the police. In a statement by Wajir Governor Ahmed Abdullahi, who is also the chair of the Council of Governors, the county chief say there are better ways such matters can be handled. Dado on Friday faulted some political leaders for the skirmishes witnessed in the region. The county boss accused the leaders of incitement leading to the deadly clashes.
Wanapinga pia jamii zingine katika mipangilio ya maendeleo. Watu fulani pia wakawa wamehusisha jamii zao, wamemobilize jamii zao. Paka ikafika kiwango sasa watu wanaimba manyimbo ya kivita.
These as 5 political leaders from Tana River County were summoned to appear before the National Cohesion and Integration Commission on Monday next week over incitement linked to the clashes between the two communities neighboring Tana River and Kitui counties. Samira Mohammed for TV47.
And tonight, some patients who are at the Isiolo County Referral Hospital ICU have been forced to leave the facility due to the medic strike in the area that has brought health sector to its knees. Rugby with that.
As the government seems engrossed on how to deal with challenges facing the transition to SHA, close to an average of 7,500 Kenyans seeking critical health services in at least 4 counties are facing the grim reality of missing out on critical health services due to an ongoing health worker strike. In Isiolo County, a family faces an agonizing battle as they watch their 18-year-old daughter Rebecca Kum struggling to breathe, reliant on oxygen support at home. Rebecca was diagnosed with chest complications and recently discovered to have untreated tuberculosis, caught in a web of the industrial action pitting the medics against the county government.
Gona kinonda horo sipumui nikika oxygen. Madaktari wakagoma nikaletwa nyumbani.
About a month ago, she was admitted at the ICU at the Isiolo Referral Hospital where she received crucial care. However, the medic strike, which began about 3 weeks ago, forced her family to make the heart-wrenching decision to bring her home, hanging on to life by the thread.
Hakuna matibabu yoyote, ndio madaktari wakagoma, tukaletwa hapa nyumbani. Na bado wako na oxygen mpaka saa.
Her mother, Josephine Kale, with an overwhelming sense of helplessness, tells us of the financial burden looming large. The family needs at least 90,000 Kenyan shillings for medication at private health facilities. Monies, she says, she doesn't have.
Hatuna pesa ya kwenda hospitali.
The already bad situation made worse by the confusion brought about by the transition to SHA, which has made some health facilities decline to offer services. The family is, however, grateful for the support of Sarafina Sili, a compassionate neighbor who opened her home to them, providing shelter and electricity that are vital for the oxygen machine, which is the difference between life and death for Rebecca.
Kwa tu msamaria mwema nikasema leteni tu akae hapa ndio kitambo basi madaktari wakirudishwa kazi apate kurudi general. Gavana tu alipe pesa alafu madaktari warudi kwa kazi wafanye kazi yao.
So far, 4 counties, that is Isiolo, Machakos, Kiambu and Marsabit, are witnessing healthcare workers down their tolls, citing a raft of demands. Tonight, appeals from the affected county government for dialogue.
So I'm appealing to them, let them come to us. We have a sitting with them and see how we are going to sort out this problem together.
With no end in sight for the pain of the strike for the thousands of struggling Kenyans. Rugby. TV47.
Thank you, Ruga, for that. Now, Haiti Prime Minister Gary Conille has lauded peace efforts made by Kenyan police officers in his country, terming them as invaluable. This even as the visiting premier has appealed for more financial commitment to fund the mission.
On Saturday mid-morning, the Haitian Prime Minister Gary Conille, accompanied by Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja, visited the Administration Police Training Academy in Mbakasi to assess the pre-deployment training of the 600 police officers to be sent to Haiti next month. This deployment comes amid a shortage of funds to support the multinational security support mission MSS in Haiti, despite the commitment made by the AU countries.
And we're out there right now talking to governments all over the world, explaining why this is important and why it's urgent. And we're quite confident that the level of resources required to actually ensure that we can support the Haitian people are really insignificant when you compare it to the other expenditures that are happening worldwide.
Other countries set to deploy their officers include Bahamas, Antigua, Barbuda, Italy, Spain, Mongolia, Senegal, Belize, Guatemala, and Peru. The Prime Minister, however, appreciated the excellent work done by Kenyan police officers in Haiti to deal with gangs who have overrun Haiti's capital city, Port-au-Prince. As we speak, the gangs have already occupied 80% of Port-au-Prince, making it difficult for citizens to get medical services and even food.
70% of our health infrastructure have collapsed. Women are being raped and abused in a violent manner. The situation poses both a humanitarian, a development, and a security threat.
The deployment of police, National Police Service, is a requirement to ensure that we have, peace and security in our country.
The joint mission between Kenya and Haiti has significantly helped Haiti to deal with gangs. However, there is still a challenge on matters security. 400 police officers had been deployed to Haiti plus the 600 who are set to be deployed next month, bringing the number to 1,000. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Paul, for that. President William Ruto on Saturday attended the Episcopal installation of the Reverend Wallace Ng'ang'a Gashehi as the Bishop of the Military Ordinariate of Kenya at the Ulinzi Sports Complex. In his speech, President Ruto underlined the pivotal role played by the church in deepening national unity.
At Ulinzi Sports Complex, here, joy, cheers, celebration, pomp and color was witnessed as Roman Catholic believers, military personnel, and various government leaders led by President William Ruto gathered to witness the official installation of Bishop Wallace Ng'ang'a as their new spiritual leader.
Constantly accompanying you to be aware of the image of God in which you are created and the image of God in which the people you look after are created.
Speakers at the event emphasized the importance of Kenyans embracing peace and all efforts that promote unity and solidarity in the country in order to avoid unnecessary conflicts.
More than ever, we are in need of peace.
Bishop Wallace Ng'ang'a, who has now taken on the responsibility of ensuring the spiritual nourishment of Catholic military personnel, serves as the third in this role after his predecessors, the late Cardinal Maurice Otunga and Bishop Alfred Rotich.
And I humbly accept the mission to work with those who serve and to offer spiritual guidance and strengthen the bonds of faith.
President William Ruto, on his part, praised the crucial role the church plays while also commending the disciplined forces for their dedication in ensuring border security across the country.
Every soldier's right to practice their faith can only enable the KDF to maintain greater levels of discipline, not only because of faith, and not only because faith is an effective organizing principle, but also because we worship and serve God.
Bishop Ng'ang'a was elevated to the role by Pope Francis in August of this year, just months after being named the auxiliary bishop of Nairobi. Quinto Wafula, TV47, Nairobi.
And Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's stand and focus in politics has been correlated with that of former Vice President Josephat Karanja, who, according to members of Parliament, who were present in his vote of no confidence present in 1989. He refused to be intimidated and stood with what he believed was right before eventually resigning to avoid embarrassment in the August House. And as Mike Kagungu now reports, Gachagua's impeachment process is the fourth since Kenya got independence after members of Parliament attempted to oust Speaker Francis Ole Kaparo, that is sometime in 1997, and Vice President George Saitoti in 1999.
In an attempt to become the center of political power in the area, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has been working hard over the past 2 years to establish a base of influence around Mount Kenya region. His efforts ostensibly hit a snag when members of Parliament castigated him of only concentrating within single region, when he was expected to unite all Kenyans across the country. However, the man from Murema, as called in his region, refused to back down but rather tightened his belts to warn his opponents against touching, in his words, Murema. These events, among others, led to an impeachment motion against the DP sailed through in Parliament, just like in April 1989, when a motion of no confidence was moved against Kenya's fifth Vice President, Josephat Karanja. According to the then Assistant Minister for National Guidance and Political Affairs, Francis Ole Kaparo, Karanja, who had just been elected to represent Mathare constituency, the current Kasarani constituency, was accused by President Daniel Moi's confidence of plotting to destabilize the presidency and abusing power.
And by that time, Josephat Karanja had been in office for just 1 year. I was also at that time in politics, parliamentary politics, for 1 year. I was then an assistant minister for political affairs, national guidance and political affairs. So I participated in that motion.
It is said that in 1989, while President Daniel Moi was away on official business, Dr. Karanja convened a security meeting with key security officials. Moi was enraged by this act, sparking a conflict between the two.
The motion was carried, and subsequently the Vice President, Dr. Karanja, resigned. And there was a replacement by George Saitoti.
The position of a deputy president or a vice president is a very fragile position, in the sense that you are number two in terms of power arrangement, and yet there are other people who may be more influential than you in the normal day-to-day running of the office of the president. And I think that is where the challenge does emanate, from the fact that you are number two, and at times there are some individuals that I usually refer as either suspects or I call them make-believe, people who do not have any official capacity per se.
The motion to oust Karanja was tabled by Embakasi MP David Mwenje, who shortly after tabling it in Parliament, President Moi appointed him as an assistant minister to the office of the president. The man fronted by President Daniel Moi to run for Cherangani constituency by-election of 1989 following nullification of Masinde Muliro's election. Kipruto Arab Kirwa remembers of Karanja after resigning from vice president's position, used to sit at the back benches in Parliament.
So I could see him. He used to come sit among us, among the back benches. He was still an MP for Githunguri, I think Mathare. So until, of course, he passed on in 1994. And the rest is history, because a by-election was done and somebody else came in.
But being a very good student of President Moi, it is the system in Kenya today. And I don't think it's just President Ruto. I think anybody, President Uhuru would do it. Any other president coming would still do the same because of the security and the safety of your seat.
Gachagua's impeachment process rekindles previous instances where the country's politics came to a standstill following Vice President's resignation from office. Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and Joseph Murumbi were also casualties of circumstances, resigning from office following what they termed as leadership insecurities.
So Mzee Kenyatta appointed Joseph Murumbi. Joseph Murumbi stayed for about 6 months. Then he resigned, ostensibly on healthy grounds, that his health was not allowing him to continue running in that particular office as the Vice President of the Republic.
In 1996, former Speaker of the National Assembly Francis Ole Kaparu says members of Parliament tabled a censure motion against him, but only 57 MPs supported his oust against 88 MPs. Former Vice President George Saitoti also found himself in the receiving end in 1999.
And I allowed it to be debated the very same day, and it was resoundingly defeated. If I can recall, it was 88 votes against and 57 votes for.
The appointment of Kalonzo Musyoka to assist President Moi Kibaki in running the government was the only presidential appointment in Kenyan history to be free of political ouster.
He appointed Kalonzo Musyoka, so I seem to give a lot of attribute and respect to President Moi Kibaki for handling his deputies and his ministers very well.
Kenya haiwezi kuwa vile tena. Haiwezi kuwa vile tena. Haitakuwa nje ya udikteta, haitakuwa nje ambayo mtu anaweza kuamuka kusema anataka kuendelea kuwa rais kwa maisha. Haiwezekani.
Gachagua has insisted that appointments to the state should solely go to UDA supporters. Karanja was once charged with tribalism when he allegedly demanded 40% of all open positions at the Nairobi City Commission. As a result, Karanja's dream of becoming president vanished quickly, although pundits say Gachagua's ouster may make him strong to bounce back through his Murema slogan. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, elaborate piece by Mike Kagwango, and we're still on Rigiji, as he would call him. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has, for the second time, under a certificate of urgency, filed yet an application citing 10 grounds to stop the Senate from proceeding with the impeachment hearing scheduled for Thursday next week. Through his lawyer, Kamodho Njomo, the Deputy President seeks to bar the Senate from admitting, processing, and debating the impeachment motion, arguing it's based on supported or unsupported allegations, hearsay, and outright lies, as Apollo Kamau details.
A day after he was granted reprieve by the High Court to argue his impeachment case before an even bench to be constituted by Chief Justice Martha Koome, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua late Friday filed yet another application before High Court Judge Justice Chacha Mwita, seeking to block the Senate from proceeding with the impeachment motion, which he says is based on general unsupported allegations, hearsay, and outright lies. Gachagua cites 10 grounds, among them that members of Parliament voted on other grounds than those set in the motion, that the impeachment was converted into a vicarious assault on his family, that members of Parliament were subjected to intimidation and undue influence, that the entire impeachment process was designed to avoid judicial scrutiny, that the process was attended by uncharacteristic speed to avoid constitutional compliance audit, that the National Assembly prosecuted the impeachment motion, that it offended the President rather than the law and the Constitution, that the motion violates the doctrine of exhaustion, on the deployment of the impeachment process being misused to settle political scores, failure to employ the political parties' disputes tribunal, that the National Assembly trivialized the gross misconduct by exploiting Gachagua's family, that the Speaker and his deputy took a partisan position on the petitioner. The application comes as the DP allies continue to pile pressure on the Senate, while saying they will push for a law to allow Kenyans impeach a president and his deputy through a referendum instead of parliament.
Sasa ni kazi yetu kuuliza senators, kwa sababu nyumba yao ndio inaangalia document by document ndio waone kama ni kweli. Tunasema tu waongozwe na roho ya Mungu na wafanye ile wanaweza, ndio wapeane justification ile mzuri, kwa sababu hii impeachment inaweza kuwa null and void.
Gachagua's impeachment has drawn mixed reactions from Mount Kenya leaders on what his impeachment means for the populous Mount Kenya region.
I can assure you from here, William Ruto will use that seat kwa njia yote ili ataweza kuhakikisha mlima kula ya mlima 2027 haiko pamoja, sababu that is his nightmare. Watu wamehama UDA wote.
Gachagua is backing on Chief Justice Martha Koome to constitute an even bench in what he says are weighty constitutional matters regarding his impeachment and the public participation process. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Well, thank you, Apollo. Now, the United Democratic Party UDA Comrades Nyanza chapter was held today at the Tomboya Labour College in Kisumu, where hundreds of university and college students had an opportunity to interact with government officials, where they learnt on just how they can benefit from numerous government programs. UDA officials, led by the party's General Secretary Hassan Omar, said that UDA Comrade is a platform that will ensure inclusivity, especially the young people in leadership, government agendas and policy information or formation.
The fourth UDA Comrades chapter, a forum where the youth engage with largely the policy formation wing of the UDA party, saw the party pitch tent in Kisumu County. The government officials present took participants through various government programs and how they can plug in and reap benefits.
We link them to the bank where they can be able to get funding. We also link them to the projects.
We are here to make sure you have information, because information is power.
This, according to the party, will provide a unique platform for the voices of the young people to be heard, as well as provide civic engagement and mentorship programs for the future leaders. The youths, on the other hand, have been urged to embrace digital superhighway and creative economy, since the government has already put programs in place.
We have internet that has revolutionized the way we work, and the government has created opportunity by establishing digital hubs in almost every constituency in Kenya.
Post-harvest losses is a major threat to our fishing industry and the blue economy space. If you go to Molokoba today, you will find those particular youths producing ice and selling this ice to women entrepreneurs. The government has supported that at a cost of 140 million.
Secretary General of UDA Party, Hassan Omar, has said that the young people are the main pillar in creating the country's development agenda, and that their opinions will be fully considered.
We will engage and engage until we get a country that is built on consensus to perfect our democracy and to perfect our policies and to improve our government.
So, comrades, we are much privileged to be here, because this is the party that has invented or has decided to incorporate the student in their quest of running the activities.
The party aims to hold meetings across the country with the Comrades chapter targeting the university and college students. Violet Auma, TV47.
Sports news brought to you by Maybet.
Join Maybets leo upate free bet hapo hapo. Fanya hivi, chagua home team to win, yani number 1 au draw X au away team 2 kwa game ya siku ya free bet. Weka namba yako ya simu, weka password ya account yako, chagua submit free bet. Utapata free bet kwa account yako ya Maybet. Usisahau kuverify account yako. Kama hutakuwa verified, utapoteza free bet yako after 2 days. Betting is strictly for 18 years and over. Play responsibly. Terms and conditions apply. BCLB number 0000578.
Maybet na minia na najishindia. Pesa inavutia, pesa inavutia.
That automatically tells you that we get sporty. We're defending champions. Kenya Shujaa remains unbeaten in the 2024 Safari Sevens Rugby tournament in Machakos County. In the ladies category, holders Uganda Lady Cranes are also in stilting form going into the last day of the championship. Our reporter Duncan Mutua is at Jomo Kenyatta Stadium and has the full details.
Day 2 was full of action, with boys being separated from men at the Jomo Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos County.
Absolutely. Shujaa is the best team here. Shuja's going to beat these people seriously. And even over and above, other than the Safari Sevens, this is one of the best teams we're going to have as we go back to the HSBC Sevens. It's one of the best teams that they're going to be a contender in all the series, all the legs, starting from Dubai, Cape Town, and we hope to be there also to support this team.
Debutants Qatar found the going tough, and varsity boys also struggled.
Really?
On course of retaining the title they won last year after they beat Zimbabwe today evening.
We take a game at a time, so we focus. So far, this is what expected, but I feel like majority of fans could not make it. Majority of rugby fans are from Nairobi, and they couldn't make it. But let's hope for tomorrow, because I feel it's good. The vibe is amazing. There's no rain. The weather is awesome. Rugby, it's just an amazing day. And the scores are also good so far.
In the ladies category, Kenya Lionesses began their day with a 29-0 victory over Shogun, and another defeat for Shogun would follow, a 27-0 against Costa Blanca. But Uganda Queens are still eyeing the title after a 34-0 victory over Kenya Cubs.
Expect more intensity and more wins, of course, more carries. We are building up for our game in Ghana for the tournament in the next 4 weeks. So we really want to push ourselves to get the best results and to work on our structures during the games and see how well we can be by the time we are done with this tournament.
Obviously just builds our confidence and makes our skills better. Playing the best makes you better.
And it's a different style to what we're used to. It's very fast. All the players have speed, so we're getting used to it, and hopefully we'll build throughout the next games.
The competition comes to close on Sunday, being the first time it's being held outside Nairobi.
The game is so nice. Yeah, but I think in future they should do it in Nairobi more than that.
Day 2 of the Safari Sevens Rugby tournament, where the favorites have been separated from
Danko here. Thank you so much for the update. Of course, remember that continues to be broadcasted right here on TV47 as it goes all the way to tomorrow. And as the chess sport is being introduced in the country, more than 500 players across the world have participated in the annual Mombasa Open Chess Tournament. And Mount Kenya University student Shannon, who traveled from MKU Thika, has lauded the event as it exposes her to future opponents during the global event later next year. Adding on, the student has insisted on improving infrastructure across all institutions so as to attract more youth, as the sport helps them to actively participate in sporting activities.
And it has also helped a lot of youth in MKU, a lot of students, because like you'll find like it's a Friday, instead of people going for parties and all that, they're in school playing chess, competing. So it helps people not to be idle, and it also like opens up your mind. Like in class, you can see patterns, the way you can see patterns on the board. So it helps with pattern recognition, it helps with how you think faster because you practice, yeah. And it also helps with stamina, like you are good at staying strong in like whatever you are doing, even if it's a hard task.
Today has been an exceptional tournament because of the numbers. We have over 500 participants coming from different countries and background, and the tournaments bring players from in open section. We have players in junior sections, and these sections, as I mentioned, carry players from different countries. We have Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Southern Sudan. We have players all the way from India, and some from some parts of Europe. So this gives an international outlook that we are looking for in a tournament of this magnitude.
Sports news brought to you by Maybets. Join Maybets leo upate free bet hapo hapo. Fanya hivi, chagua home team to win, yani number 1 au draw X au away team 2 kwa game ya siku ya free bet. Weka namba yako ya simu, weka password ya account yako, chagua submit free bet. Utapata free bet kwa account yako ya Maybets. Usisahau kuverify account yako. Kama hutakuwa verified, utapoteza free bet yako after 2 days. Betting is strictly for 18 years and over. Play responsibly. Terms and conditions apply. BCLB number 0000578.
Maybet na minia na najishindia. Pesa inavutia, inavutia.
Yes, from sports, from news to sports, and now to her say, a conversation with Lynn Mengich. 6 years at the helm of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Just what has she achieved? What will she be leaving behind for the country? And just how much does the predecessor, or of course, how much will the successor then have to do to make sure that then it's at a better state? After this short break, we get to that.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph,
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair.
And this is the moment where we get to that important conversation. The Honorable Lynn Mengich is our guest tonight. And I think I'll take this opportunity to ask on behalf of the many Kenyans that have asked this, whether they read newspapers, whether they listen to news, whether they do not know. I think it's important that we hear it from the horse's mouth, that you have exited already from the Salaries and Remuneration Commission?
Yes, Linda, I exited on the 11th of September.
11th of September this year.
This year, so just about...
You've had it. Because you see, my poster reads former SRC chairperson. Yes. And so everyone is asking, she left. How much time does it take to get a replacement? Do we already have a replacement?
The interviews happened last week.
Right.
Actually, early this week.
Early this week.
Yes.
And therefore, Kenyans should expect the
after
naming.
That, there is, of course, a process that, it has to go to, the nominations are sent to the president, then to Parliament for vetting. If Parliament then approves the nominee, then it goes back to the president for appointment. So there is a process.
2018 up until now.
Yes.
And you get into this very crucial and delicate space for the country. And most of the people, are questioning the previous reign, but at the same time appreciating what it is that Sarah Serem did. And here you come in, and you come in when it's heated, when the members of Parliament want to have a raise in their salaries, and they actually it is claimed that they always manage to twist the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, to bow down to this kind of pressure. But luckily, on the other side of the executive, some of them say that, well, we probably do not need adjustments upwards, yet it is a requirement. How was it like for you?
Well, let me first start with what you just mentioned about that Parliament twist SRC. The truth of the matter is, in 2018, yes, when we took over, Parliament did try to raise house allowance, so they actually wanted to pay themselves a house allowance. That matter went to court, and I'm happy to report that actually the court upheld the decision of the commission, and the members of Parliament then, it is not the current Parliament, the previous Parliament, they had to refund that money.
They had to.
So to that extent, it is not true that SRC is twisted.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. It's pretty much a tight office. I'm sure you will agree to me. You will agree with what it is that I say. So what were your plans when you're getting into it, away from what is dictated by the Constitution? Because we all understand that the functions of the SRC are, clearly highlighted in the Constitution. Yeah. But then most of the people will come in to specific offices and they will have something in mind as to what they would need to change, as long as it's within the presence of law. And, up until this very point, what would you say is that changing factor that you have made as it stands?
Well, the important thing, of course, is you must uphold the Constitution and you must deliver the mandate of the Constitution.
Right.
But the how is important. So for the Commission, when we came on board in 2018, one of the very important things was the how we discharge our mandate. As you rightly say, it is clearly stated in the Constitution what we must do. But then in that process, the how becomes important because that is when you get a lot of resistance from your stakeholders or misconceptions. So we did from the onset agree that working in collaboration with other arms of government was very important. Ensuring that we engage our stakeholders before we make decisions was important. But in doing that, still remain independent in making our decisions. And I think, Linda, that is one of the things we achieved, because what we really wanted is to ensure that the mandate of the Commission is understood. Not just by the stakeholders, the public officers who are affected, but even by the citizens themselves. So we did spend quite a lot of time to sensitize our stakeholders like trade unions to understand the role of the Commission. So that as we make decisions, then we lessen the objections that come to it or the resistance that come with it. So I must say that is one of the things we achieved. And after the 6 years, we felt that the Commission's mandate is understood better than previously. But of course, we did deliver what was expected of us as a Commission. Yes.
All right. You speak of the fact that this has well been understood by the citizens. Of course, we're going to get to that sometime later. But just looking at some of the crucial concerns that were outrightly, or they were outright at the point of you getting in. Of course, we keep talking about the ballooning wage bill. We talk about, remuneration. Most of the people actually, or most of the Kenyans then would say they would want to have that element of fairness when it comes to the aspect of remuneration. Of course, we're talking about just how best, as a country would be able to get on board, people who have good skills and actually manage to retain them, in these tough economic times, and a couple of matters or concerns in relation to productivity. Would you say that we have managed to achieve or to address some of these that would have been considered major concerns?
Yes, absolutely. Let me go one by one.
Yes.
The first one is to do with the wage bill, which you have stated that, the label is that it's ballooning. And that's always debatable. What do you mean by ballooning wage bill?
Right.
But the facts on the table is that the wage bill is way above what is stipulated in the Public Finance Management Act. The Act stipulates that not more than 35% of revenue should be spent on the wage bill. In 2018, when the Commission came on board, myself and the commissioners, it was about 51%, 51 and slightly above percent. From 35. So you can see from the onset that is a big challenge. As at last year, we were at 46%, and we are projecting actually by the end of this financial year, it will be around 40. So that you can see is a big achievement. It's gone down as a ratio of revenue. But I must say it's a very complex space because in absolute terms, the wage bill went up, right? And why is that? Kenyans may say, so why is it that on absolute terms it went up? And that's because as a developing country with a population growth that we have and a very young population, that a lot of our services have not yet reached the ratios that is required.
Right.
Essential services, when we talk about education, for example, the teacher to student ratio, we have not achieved the required ratios. When we look at security to population, we have not reached the required standards. Neither have we in the healthcare sector in WHO ratios. So when you look at that, then you can see that we must continue to employ in those three sectors. So as therefore the wage bill in absolute terms will continue to rise, but then we must be worried about the ratio. Because if we spend a lot of our money in the wage bill, then you do that at the expense of development and other services. So on that score, I must say that has been a success because it's come down. and yet the country has continued to actually employ in those 3 sectors. So that balance, the Commission has managed to ensure that that balance is arrived at. And how do we do that? Because as you rightly say, that balance means that even as we manage that, then government must still be able to attract and retain the skills to discharge its functions. And therefore the remuneration that is advised or set by the Commission then must enable government to discharge its functions. And on that score alone, the surveys, we do carry out, the Commission carries out surveys regularly to check on retention. And as at last year, the retention was over 95%. So you can see that that balance has been kept. That yes, the ratio is coming down, but in terms of retention is where it should be.
One of the key things that would be a concern before you even elaborate it further for any individual who would wish to exit the stage, if you are going to tell them that you'll remunerate them better, they perhaps are likely to, stick around and all that. So even as we speak about the fact that we've been able to retain, some of the employers or some of the skill-based individuals that we've hired, what are some of the things that need to be done so that again we match up the levels of remuneration to the work that is being done, if at all not surpass that? Because at the end of the day, there needs to be some element of consideration as to the quality of life. Even when you talk about the basics of buying power and all that, what do we need to do as a country so that we arrive at a level where even when we talk about adjustments upward, that is of remuneration, then really we are confident that we can manage the same?
Remuneration has to be in tandem with the economy. And at the end of the day, the question is, what can the economy afford? What can the country afford? So in this space of the remuneration, what is important is to continuously check what is happening in the market, and the Commission does carry out labor market surveys just to see where the remuneration is against the market. But will it reach a stage where we are saying that everybody is comfortable, that every employee is cushioned against cost of living? That is very difficult to achieve. Not just in Kenya, but many economies, it is difficult to achieve completely and say everyone is comfortable.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and as well remind us of this. If my memory serves me right, we get to a point where, as the salaries or SRC, you recommend an adjustments as dictated by the laws of the land, that there must be an adjustment upwards for the office of the president, perhaps the executive and all that. And at some point in time, the president says, well, we do not need that adjustment. And it appears as though it's a tussle between the president, who then says there's no need for an adjustment, and SRC, who says that it's a requirement of the law. What was happening there so that we get to understand this proper?
That's an interesting point, Linda. First is to say that it is not that every other time the Commission was actually recommending an increase. For the period that we were in office, in that 6 years, the first 2 years, the salaries were frozen for everybody. And this was, in fact, because of the COVID-19.
Right.
So that period, there was a total freeze. There was no adjustment of the salary structures. Now, then come the next phase, which was now, we call it the 3rd and the 4th year of the review cycle. That is when the Commission then reviewed the pay to be in tandem with the market. Now, at that point, you're right that the president felt that for him and the deputy, they felt strongly that they did not need an increase. But here then, Linda, we must then look at the position and the individual. Because when the Commission is looking at pay review, it's looking at the job. So you look at the job, and we carry out market studies internationally to see where the pay of the president should be. So at that point, it is really separating between what the individual may say and what the job actually requires. But let me just say, it is a review is not always upwards. The Commission is mandated to review, yes, but it's not always upwards. In fact, For the last review, even for the positions that were reviewed, the majority of the salary structures, there was still no review. Yes, so it can be a freeze, can be a few positions that are adjusted, in some institutions all, but in quite a number actually there was no upward.
We all agree that the conversation here is not about the SRC, but then because she was the boss, it is important that we get there. Just how independent and effective is the SRC, and especially when it comes to addressing the concerns of the public, and just how much has it gone out of its way to show the public that indeed there is that need and it is worth to have the Salaries and Remuneration Commission intact in the country?
So to start with, in terms of the public, whenever the commission is reviewing pay for state officers, it goes through public participation. So it is a requirement in the constitution. So at that point, the public has a say in whatever the commission is proposing to set. So that's the first engagement with the public, and the public then gives us their views. But beyond that, continuously the Commission does have sensitization sessions with different stakeholders to ensure that there is understanding from the public, from the stakeholders on what is required of the Commission. But I know you've also asked a question about the independence of the Commission. I just feel it's important to explain that as well. That, you know, in Chapter 15 of the Constitution, that is where SRC is established. And it's not just SRC, there are other constitutional commissions and independent offices, commonly referred to as Chapter 15 commissions and officers. They are given independence. What does that independence actually means is that they do not take direction from anyone. And therefore the decisions made by these commissions must be independent. But independence does not mean that you do not collaborate with other stakeholders. So there is an element of interdependence, but there is also independence in decision making. So it is then required that there is an element of, you know, interdependence with other arms of government. Yes.
All right. This is Chapter 15, Chapter 12?
Chapter 15.
Chapter 15, Chapter 15. And then, of course, SRC falls under 230A. I almost thought it's Chapter 12. I don't know why. I must have lost that, but all the same, we're here. And, of course, hearing it from the horse's mouth. So, as we perhaps close on this chapter of SRC, I would not want to know just how it feels, you know, having picked it from your predecessor and what you think you did different, but perhaps to that one that will take it up. What are some of the things that you perhaps feel they need to seal as loopholes? And maybe as a country, would it be important to perhaps review the ways that we pick the commissioners, or that is in order?
For the commission, SRC is slightly different from all other commissions because the Constitution clearly stipulates how the nominations are done. They are representative of different bodies. So the commission has a representative of Federation of Kenya Employers, a representative of COTU, a representative of Teacher Service Commission, National Police Service Commission, Public Service Commission, Judiciary Service Commission,
Senate, parliamentary,
county government. So to that extent, you can see that actually it picks all the key stakeholders. So I don't think one would say, should we change that composition? And then of course, government also has nominees from the National Treasury, the CS, National Treasury, Attorney General, Minister of Public Service. It's very inclusive and it's intentional so that the perspectives from all these other employers and other interested institutions are brought on board. So I think for me, when I look back, even having chaired the commission, it is the right thing.
Procedure to take.
It is the right procedure to take, yes.
All right, so here we are, and we are looking at you with the HR, and I mean, people would be curious. Perhaps this question should come last, but let it come now. Just what are the plans after this? Or sometimes then you must, I mean, you have held positions in different quarters, you know, the private sector. This has gotten you to the level of the public sector or perhaps the government, and people are curious. I mean, by the time it is the last year, you are beginning to think, no, what next and all that, what is the plan and everything. Is it true that you have been approached for something else so far?
Well, yes, in terms of what are my plans, when I look back, yes, I do have private sector experience. Most of my, my experience was in private sector. I must say I loved working for the public sector because it is really a service that you give to the country.
Yeah.
So as I look back, combining my experience, both private, public sector, and chairing a commission, and my past experience also in different boards, what is next for me really is to really use some of the skills that I've acquired throughout my career in 3 areas. Right. One for me would really continue in boards. I think there is a lot of value in either serving as a chair or a member or a board. It's got a lot of impact for this country. So that's one area that I will continue serving in different organizations.
Right.
Now the other one, which a year ago, I did see that I need to think about something different that I haven't done. So I'm now a certified mediator.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. And that to me is an area that I think will really make an impact in this country.
Okay.
Judiciary is now more and more talking about alternate dispute resolution.
Yes.
Mediation is one of those. And having been in a space where there is a lot of conflict, there is a lot of room for mediation.
That's true.
So I also want to spend my time looking at mediation and something that I can do. And of course, I'm not closing myself to any opportunities that may arise in the public sector. I would love to, if opportunities arise, I would still serve. So that's where I am.
All right, we must come to a close, but then not before you tell us, what do you make of the public vis-a-vis the private sector, that most of the times would wake up and say, this entity that is under the public sector should perhaps be accorded to the private sector so that it's run well and everything. What is this that we miss out on when, running the activities of the public sector, such that sometimes we tend to appreciate what is in the private sector more?
One of the things that having come from private to public is there is a misconception a lot of the time that people in public service don't have a lot of work, or they don't necessarily excel.
Okay.
I must say that is not entirely true.
Right.
I did find that there are a lot of public officers really hardworking, doing their job. The big difference you find is that in the private sector, it is very easy to measure your impact because you're talking numbers.
Okay.
So you can easily say you made a profit, you didn't make a profit, you did this, it's numbers. When it comes to public service, it is not as easy to measure your impact. And therefore, when you say, what is not happening, then it is not a very easy answer.
Okay.
But having said that, I do agree that there is a lot that needs to change a bit in the private sector in the way performance management is done.
Okay.
The approach to performance management is slightly different than in the private sector.
Right.
I think public sector is a lot more forgiving if you don't perform. The consequences are not as dire as in the private sector.
Okay.
So that element can be improved. The standards of performance also could be higher. But again, that's very general because, as I said, I have come across institutions in the private sector who are really, really performing, but it's not cutting across.
Yeah.
So that is where improvements need to be there so that the citizens can actually feel the impact. We've got to be more purposeful to say, is what public sector doing actually speaking to the citizens?
Right.
Is it impactful, and how can we measure that impact so that you can always actually say, yes, what I'm doing, I can see the results, I can feel the outcome.
That we have policies and they're being implemented.
Yes.
All right, as we come to a close, speaking to the lady out there, perhaps in 30 seconds, to the girl out there who is watching you, what is this one thing that you tell them tonight in terms of, just getting into this murky waters, tight spaces, and, coming out a victor?
I would say to young girls, even those who are in school and those who are already in the workplace, that actually there is a lot that women can do. Research has shown that women have certain characteristics in them that actually plays a lot in a positive way in the workplace.
Yeah.
And just to mention a few, Linda, so that I don't close over this, is there are innate characteristics, like empathy,
right,
emotional intelligence that women have, and being able to perceive situations from a different manner.
Right.
And some of these characteristics actually play a lot, especially in places like the boardroom, where women are able to add enormous value to what is happening. So I would say then to the women, the young girls, that although sometimes these spaces tend to have challenges, but nothing should stop anyone from actually putting their foot forward and being the best that they can be. And it is possible, it's doable, and women should actually take up more positions.
All right, the Honorable Lynn Mengich, it's been an honor having you, albeit for such a short time. We wish you nothing but the best in the next chapter. And we'll be watching, because then our business is to learn from those who have come ahead of us, or who are on a mission ahead of us. Thank you so much as well for keeping us company, as well for the immense feedback. But we must exit the stage and pave way for Shitter Boy in a bit. My name is Linda Lela. It was good having you. Bye-bye.